Welcome back. Today we have a question from AskReddit. What first date behavior is a deal breaker? As always, spelling and grammar mistakes courtesy of Reddit. Lol. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps this channel grow. Thank you. I think when they don't even ask you about yourself, maybe that sounds weird, but I had a date that would be constantly talking about her life and friends and whatnot. I would ask her questions too, but she never once asked me about anything. Reply. I had a prom date like this in high school. We were set up and ended up meeting at a Starbucks before prom to get to know each other. He only ever asked me questions about myself as a formality, no follow-ups. Stuff like, so what do you like to do? Oh, I do a lot of theater, cool anyways. He just never was interested in knowing more about me or my interests. Prom went well enough and I ended up going out with him a few more times. I was 18 and kinda desperate. He was hot, until I realized I literally couldn't stand it anymore. Reply 2. To be honest, it could be a mixture of ADD and nervousness. Sometimes we forget the normal social cues in an excess of excitement and just monologue our way through an evening. She may have realized afterwards how bad she'd been and cringed herself inside out. Been there, done that. Taking me to a multi-level marketing seminar. Actually happened. Reply. Listen, you can be your own boss and set your hours. Just give me 50% of all sales you make, and if you don't make 100,000 sales per month, I will have to take your children as collateral. Reply 2. You'll take my children as collateral. Whoa, baby, don't threaten me with a good time. Showing up late and not texting ahead of time. You're not playing it cool if you're 20 minutes late without saying anything. Reply. The amount of anxiety that would give me, especially as I'm a person who has to be 15 minutes early. Reply 2. It's insane to me the number of people who just can't be on time anymore. It tells me you don't value other people's time. Yeah, sometimes you hit traffic, the dog threw up, whatever, it happens, but you usually know who is honest about it and who is just making excuses pretty quick. I went on a first date about a year ago, right before COVID really hit. We met for lunch on a work day for me, but I have a flexible schedule. She was 30 minutes late and then for some reason parked 3 blocks away even though the place had an empty parking lot, which took her another 15 minutes to walk to. During lunch she mentions she was late because she had to stop at Target and Starbucks, which really pissed me off. We still have a good time, but after 2 hours, I say I have to get back to work. I ask where she parked, and she tells me, and I offer her a ride to her car, and she says no. About an hour later she texts me saying it was rude I didn't walk her to her car. There was no second date. This wasn't a first date, as she had told me she just wanted to be friends after that, but we did one friend date after, and this basically killed it. Let's go to Chick-fil-A, orders something for herself and then asks me if I want anything. Yeah, I'll just have a shake. We get to the window and she turns to me. I'm kind of broke and don't have that much on me, can you pay? I would be fine with it if she had just asked me before if I minded buying her something, but to phrase it like she was the one paying and then switching it up on me. I'm just being used. Reply. To the server, got to cancel that sandwich. It will be just the shake, thanks. Reply 2. So, she played on the fact you liked her for a free meal. Reply 3. That happened to me while hitchhiking. Dude asked me if I'm hungry and said he could stop at a KFC. Pulled up to the drive-thru and looked at the menu. What do you think you should order? Like a bucket or something. The way he phrased it seemed like I was paying, and he was volunteering like a $30 meal deal for me to order. I clarified that I was the guy who was broke, Mr. Car Owner Sir, and he was like, oh, and drove away from the drive-thru. I'm really torn. Maybe to him, it's common decency to pay the guy picking you up. But like, I was the homeless 19-year-old he picked up on the side of the road. Starting the date by saying that you've cleared your entire weekend, just in case this date works out and I'm free. No pressure. Reply. Or bringing his overnight bag into your house when he picks you up. Not a big deal, it's whatever. What do you mean, I should leave? Reply 2. Reminds me of a date I had with a woman out of town. I told her I got a hotel room in her town and invited her to dinner. I had no hotel room, but I didn't want there to be weird awkward pressure. Ended up spending the night at her place. The next day, I confessed to never getting the room and she said something like, no shite. I knew you didn't have a room. You were just giving me an out if I wanted one. Which I appreciated. Or something very close to that. This was many years ago. Texting their ex. Reply, what kind of rude assholes are you finding? Reply 2, you obviously have not dived down into the shite hole that is Tinder. Reply 3, I went on a date and the guy was texting his ex-fiancée but then he clarified he has 2 ex-fiancées. Reply 4, I know right, or texting their spouse, that's just rude. On my first date with a guy he proceeded to tell me he'd had sex with 16 women and I could be lucky number 17, and then told me he generously rated me a 6 out of 10. Solid move dude, solid move. Edit OMG I just remembered he also told me literally while we were still hanging out that he just fricked some other girl earlier that day, like wow is that supposed to be a good thing? Reply. I've never understood how men will openly degrade you while taking you on a date. Like do you really think you're that special? Or are you trying to convince me I can't do better? Neither of those things are true. Reply 2. It's called negging, to break down your self-esteem and make you feel defensive then throw you a bone like he's going to be there for you. Basically abusive shite. Do a web search for it and you'll find forums full of guys discussing techniques and books about it. I'm sure even here on Reddit too. Reply 3. Out of curiosity, would this work with any woman anywhere? Like, if I was out on a date with a woman and she told me she just screwed some guy earlier that day, I wouldn't return from the bathroom. Reply from Op. It's really hard to be honest on this, but I sadly became girl 17. It works on girls with low self-esteem that are looking for trouble. Luckily I've grown up a bit since then, I was like just freshly 18. Me today would do the same, run off to the bathroom ASAP. Introducing me to your boyfriend. Reply, been there. Do you mind if my boyfriend joins us? It won't be weird I promise. She was wrong. Reply 2, what happened? Reply 3. I stayed for one awkward drink and made my excuses. In hindsight they may have been angling for a threesome, but not very overtly. Full disclosure, she had told me she was in an open relationship, I just didn't know that they wanted me to join it. Making me do all the work, conversation-wise. I don't mind being the lead driver but you need to at least pull your own weight. I've been on some dates that felt more like interviews. I would try everything I could to get an actual conversation going but they ended up as question and answer sessions. Reply. This is absolutely a huge one for me. Nerves on a first date are one thing. I completely understand being slow to warm up in the feeling out process. But it's an entirely different thing for them to literally offer nothing conversation-wise, and only answer your attempts with short dead-end responses. What do you do with that? Reply 2, sometimes I'll just start sharing stuff on my own initiative. It feels narcissistic but I want them to have some knowledge about me haha. If he comes to pick you up and pees in your driveway before you'll leave. Reply, was he a cat by chance? Reply 2, y'all obviously ain't from the country. Reply 3, marking his territory. Very weird, and rude. Reply 4, how to say you're from the south without saying you're from the south. Reply 5. Seemed funny at first, but then I realized I'd likely do it without thinking about it. As long as the house is more on the countryside it's not so weird to pee in some bushes nearby when you got to, and especially if you don't want to enter a house. Reply 6. Yup, I had a guy in high school with a hot car take me to see a movie. In the parking lot, he thought he'd be suave and pee where I couldn't see him. The pee trickled towards my side. Only date we had. Reply 7. OMG, I had a guy jump into my backseat on a second date and pee into a water bottle because we had just hit some traffic. In a city, on a side street. Where I could have turned off and any time if necessary. Sigh, he seemed so normal on the first one. Immediately starting with the I love you attitude. Reply. Had a girl tell me she thought she loved me about halfway through our first date once. I brushed it off as flirty banter, then toward the end of our meal she says, you know how I know you love me. You didn't say that you didn't love me when I said I loved you. Reply 2, she sounds crazy. Reply 3. That was my conclusion too, and the reason for no second date. Had another girl tell me she wanted to pull out my leg hairs and eat them, then stick a pencil in the end of my wanker to keep the good stuff from coming out. Never even went on a date with that one. That was just after a couple weeks of casual conversation at work. Then when I didn't really respond with anything other than an okay, she told me I was terrible at flirting and stormed off. Possessive behavior. If this is how you act with someone you've just met, how would a relationship with you be? Reply. I had a guy buy me a toothbrush after a third date so I can use it when I'm staying over at his house. He also wanted to see me every day of the week after the first date and got insulted if I denied. Then he would ask about every little detail that I did when I was not seeing him. I'm just not that social person and I don't want to see anyone 24/7 for 4 days in a row. Wasn't a good enough reason. Oh, and he also pressured me to tell him my Reddit account. Reply 2. So, what's your Reddit account? Lol. Showed up late getting all done up, told via text, but was in a ratty hoodie, and her clothes smelled musty. Super shy, quiet, barely spoke, even when asked innocuous questions. Until the movie started. Then she wouldn't shut the frick up, kept staring at me, and asking the dumbest questions like, how'd you get so tall? Do you like movies? Reply. So, yeah, that sounds like someone who popped something that took a little while to kick in. Damn. Reply 2. But how did you get so tall? Lol. Reply 3. Lots of sunlight and water. I didn't know this until recently. Picking wax out of your ears and sprinkling it around. Don't. Just don't. Okay. Reply. What am I supposed to season my dinner with? Reply 2. Dandruff like normal people. Once, I was talking to this girl online, and things were going pretty well, so we decided to go for dinner. I showed up to the place 5 minutes early, so I waited. And kept waiting. Texted her 15 minutes after we were scheduled to meet, but didn't get a response. Waited for another 45 minutes, then left. She messaged me later saying that she wasn't there because she lives in Indonesia. I live in New Jersey. Reply. Boat ride took longer than I expected, sorry. Reply 2. LMAO, just swim. The nerve of some people. Thank you so very much for listening. Please check out my other videos and like and subscribe.